Hey, what is going on, guys? I'm back. I know I've been gone for quite a while. Unfortunately, I am still alive. And also, unfortunately, I'm here with another video. This time, I'm back with a Borderlands 3 video. Some of you may remember, or most of you may not, but I made some pre-release Borderlands 3 videos regarding to some builds for the characters. But now the game has been out for quite a while. It's got its first DLC drop, it's got its first level cap increase. I really got into the game, and I've been playing a lot of AMARA, and so I wanted to share some of my builds with you guys today. I have done a lot of research about the top builds that people are running, the different things that work, what doesn't work. There was a huge patch the other week that buffed and changed a lot of weapons, which is really good. I love seeing that, especially in a game like this. It brought upon a lot of build diversity. One of those weapons that got buffed was the lob. So if you guys aren't familiar with this weapon, what it used to do is shoot one very slow-moving projectile, but now it shoots a burst of 3, and it got a massive damage increase. That little explosion at the end there deals splash damage, and as the projectile, the slow-moving projectile, goes through an enemy, it's going to deal damage and tick every single time it passes through. So it's going to hit multiple times and do a massive amount of damage. This is amazing for AMARA because she is all about elemental damage and she has a lot of AoE capabilities. So we're going to push that to the limit, and I wanted to bring you guys builds not just for this weapon, but for all of her action skills that can use a variety of different weapons. So let's start off with the Phasegrasp build, which uses the very commonly known phase whiffing strat, where you essentially just cast your Phasegrasp while looking at the sky or your own asshole, completely whiffing it, but you will proc all of your on-action skill and anointments. Now, I should note that anointments are not required at all with this build. The lob does such an insane amount of damage, it literally does not matter. All you need are two lobs, I would recommend at least. I use a corrosive one and a fire one, and if possible, not required, but if possible, having some elemental anoints on your shield and your grenade. This is not required at all, but it is pretty nice to have. Since the lob is a very slow-moving, close-range projectile, I do also recommend having a long-range weapon. For me, this is what I usually use for doing Malawan takedown, so the Cutsman is pretty good for that. But any sort of other long-range weapon will do, just something that can hit things from further away very quickly. You can use the Hawken, you can use the Maggie, you can use pretty much any other weapon that you want, just something that can kill stuff from far away. As for my shield, this is literally the same shield that I use in all of my AMARA builds, the Transformer. It's really good. And then for my grenade, I use a Piss Grenade, just for the debuff on bosses, but also because it has a Cryo Anoint. I recommend having a Cryo Anoint, it feels really good on AMARA, but you don't really need it, and if you don't like the Piss Grenade, you can literally just use whichever other grenade you want. Grenades aren't really the focus of this build at all whatsoever. However, I do recommend that you have a elemental projector artifact. It doesn't matter which kind, just have an elemental projector. And for bossing, I recommend you have a Snowdrift because moving around is fun. Now for your class mod, you can either use a driver comm or a Phaserker comm. I prefer the Phaserker comm, but they both work really well. So whichever one is to your taste and your preferred playstyle, you should go for that. The driver is pretty fun, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. Phaserker is just more of a just kind of fire and forget type situation. But if you are going for a driver comm, try to get one that has the most amount of points into mindfulness, because that will give you even more move speed, and more move speed equals more gun damage. For Phaserker, it literally doesn't matter what you get in the abilities, because all of them are kind of trashy for this build. And in the stats, just try to get action skill cooldown rate, because that helps a little bit when you actually do use your Phasegrasp and you don't whiff it. That will help. But yeah, for the purposes of showing these skill trees, I'm not going to have one on, just so it's a little bit less confusing. So speaking of which, let's go over her skill tree, starting off with her red tree. Now from her red tree, we do want a lot of stuff from this tree, but the very important things are sustainment, ties that bind, dread, tempest, and infusion. This is kind of up to personal taste, but I do put 2 points into infusion. You can only put 1 if you want to, but at least have 1. This will make it so that you can shoot a dual stat lob, which is really strong, especially if you have, for example, shock is your action skill element, and then you shoot the corrosive one that will essentially just absolutely destroy shields and armor. And the same thing if you're using the fire one, it will just absolutely destroy shields and flesh. It's just so much damage that it really doesn't matter. But yeah, 16% is a lot. This is kind of useless on the lob, so we're not going to pick that up. We're just going to put some points into Anima. We're going to max out Tempest because this is more elemental damage. The reason why I don't focus that much on Anima, and I don't like it, is because we're not really going to be using our action skill all that much. We're going to be whiffing it most of the time. So the only benefit that we get from any of these stats is going to be the status effect damage. Because the status effect duration, people are just going to die instantly with the lob. We don't need duration of status effects to kill people. But it is nice to have. But the status effect damage is kind of like the only thing that we're benefiting from this at all. Anyway, after that, we're going to pick up Dread, and then I'm going to put some points into Wildfire to pick up Deep Well. Do not pick up Indiscriminate because the lob cannot ricochet, so this is kind of a complete waste. I then put some points into into Catharsis, not Catharsis, and one last point into Wildfire to pick up 1 point of sustainment. Now, 4% does not sound like a lot, but the lob just does so much damage that it literally does not matter. 4% of a bajillion is going to equate to you being full health after one shot. So you only need 1 point. It's the same logic that we used for Infusion. And of course, before we leave, I always forget to do this, but we want to equip Ties That Bind, which is going to be our action skill. Moving on to her green tree, we're only going to pick up personal space because we're going to be in people's faces with a shotgun, and 36% more damage is quite a lot. 2 points into clarity to move down the tree and max out arms deal. This is going to give us 20% more splash damage on our lob, which is huge. And then finally, we're going to move on to our blue tree. The only thing we want from our blue tree, to be honest, is Wrath. And me personally, I like having Restless because when we do actually use our action skill, this will help us get it back up as soon as possible. So I'm going to put 3 points into Fast Hands, and I'm going to put some points into Do Harm, because whenever we do actually use our action skill, with Ties That Bind, this will channel more damage to the bound targets, which is really, really nice. Do not pick up Transcend, because the lob cannot crit, so this is a complete waste. Pick up Ascendant, because why not? And then you can pretty much put your points anywhere that you want. I'm going to put them into Alacrity, because reload speed is nice. And then we're going to max out Wrath. And then with these last 2 points, you could put them anywhere that you want, really. You could put them into Mindfulness, especially if you're using a driver comm, or you could put them into Samsara. I would not recommend you do this because you're going to whiff your action skill most of the time, so you're not going to get the benefit from this. So I'm going to just put them into Laid Bare, because whenever we do actually use our action skill, for example, if there are ads near the boss, or a boss, sorry, we can pick them up with Ties That Bind, and the damage that we do to the boss will be increased, and obviously the bound targets are going to die instantly, but this just lets us do a little bit more damage, so this is pretty nice. It gives you the most bang for your buck with just 2 skill points. The only one that I could make a argument for is Mindfulness, so it's completely up to you. So as you would expect, this build absolutely shreds. Even without Anoints, I spent a lot of time min-maxing the skills and testing out different class mods, and this is what I believe to be the strongest way to play Phase Whiff, Phasegrasp, AMARA. So give this stuff a try. Like I said, all you need is a lob and either a driver or Phasezerker comm, and having an elemental projector really, really helps. It essentially just doubles your damage. So try to get your hands on those 4 things, and you don't need any anointments, like I said, and you can absolutely clap everything in Mayhem 4. Okay, now let's go over her Phasecast build. So for this one, anoints are a little bit more important, and that is because the Siren Phasecast anoint is absolutely no fucking joke. 250% increased damage after using Phasecast, which is an action skill that we can spam twice every 5 seconds, is pretty insane. You're going to want this on any of your primary weapons. There are a bunch of different weapons you can use. You can use the Maggie, which is my personal favorite. This thing right here is my Pride and Joy. You can also use the Moonfire. This thing is really satisfying to use, and as a Destiny fag, it kind of tickles my fancy as well. The Hellshock got recently buffed. This thing is absolutely insane. It melts everything. The Hellshock is a really good primary for this, and the Wedding Invitation is something that you don't even need an anoint on. This Phasecast anoint is 1,000,000,000% overkill. This thing just kills absolutely everything. You do not need an anoint if you plan on using the Wedding Invitation as your primary weapon, so I highly, highly recommend using the Wedding Invitation. And you guys will see in the clips that I will be showing that it doesn't matter if they have a shield, it doesn't matter if they're armored, they just die. They literally just die. As for your last weapon, I just recommend having a weapon that'll help you get a second wind. If I had a nukem, I would use it, but I do not, so I'm just using a radiation lob. The lob does a shitload of damage, as we saw from the Phasegrasp build, so this is a pretty fine option, to be honest, and it works out pretty well. But in Borderlands 3, you can actually aim down sights when you're in fight for your life, unlike Borderlands 2. So the Wedding Invitation is kind of a second wind weapon with infinite range. So you don't even need a second wind weapon on this setup, honestly, as long as you have a Wedding Invitation. For my shield and grenade, again, I use the same exact thing, radiation and cryo. This radiation is completely optional. I just like using the transformer. I have it in a bunch of different elements, and that's literally the only shield that I use for AMARA, but you can use a stopgap, a one-shotter shield. All those things work really, really well. And again, the It's Piss Grenade, this is for very special occasions, because you won't really need a whole lot of help killing stuff. For your artifact, again, an elemental projector is very, very, very important. Now for your class mod, you're going to want a Nimbus class mod. This essentially gives you Cloud Kill from Maya's Cataclysm tree from Borderlands 2. You throw your action skill at a location, and it creates a cloud of elemental damage. This cloud hurts like a motherfucker. It shreds people. The damage is super underrated, and if you are luckier than me, you can get a Nimbus class mod with +3 on Tempest, which is going to give you a lot more elemental damage, which would be insane. That would be the god roll, especially if you get one with action skill cooldown rate. Jesus Christ. But you're just going to want any kind of Nimbus. This, unfortunately, is the only one that I have, but I highly recommend using this one. If you don't have this, you can just use a Phaserzerker. You won't have as much AoE damage, but you are going to have a much better neutral game. So this is still a pretty good. You can pretty much use this in any AMARA build, and you'll be good to go. But this is what I'm going to recommend. I'm going to recommend that you guys try to get a Nimbus class mod, especially one that has some more points into Tempest. So now let's get into her skill tree. We're going to start off with her blue tree, Mystical Assault, and from this tree we ultimately want Avatar, so we can cast 2 Phasecast and stack up Transcend as quickly as possible. And not to mention that the version of Phasecast we're going to use is Tandava, paired with Soul Sap. It's going to give us a lot of sustain. So in order to get there, I'm going to put some points into Fast Hands, and to do harm, we're going to pick up Transcend, so we can stack this up very quickly, since we can cast Tandava twice. Put some Restless on there, pick up Ascendant as well as Soul Sap. I'm going to put some more points into Do Harm, so we can keep going down the tree, and pick up Wrath, Laid Bare, so we can affect as many enemies as possible with this huge AoE from Tandava. Put some more points into Remnant, which is really nice. And one more point into Do Harm, so we can unlock Avatar and pick that up. Now this is a lot of sustain already. If you think this is enough sustain, you can skip on sustainment. You don't need to pick this up if you can reliably keep yourself healthy with the combination of these two skills, which isn't that hard to do. But if you plan on using the Wedding Invitation, 3 shots from it are going to get you to full health with sustainment at any point and any time. So this is really, really good. So this is kind of like a way for you to diverge, and it's completely up to personal preference. If you want to use the Wedding Invitation and stay at a distance, you can opt for sustainment. But if you feel like you can live just off of Soul Sap, you can completely forgo this and pick up Personal Space, 2 points in Alacrity, and Samsara. So Samsara is also going to give you some sustain. It's going to give you 5% of your health every single time that you damage someone with your action skill, and it's also going to give you a bunch of gun damage. You can have up to 5 stacks of this, which you can pretty much instantly get with 1 cast of Tandava, so this is actually not too bad. So we're just going to try to improve our damage as much as we can. So I'm going to put 1 point into Infusion for the functionality of converting portion of our action skill element into our primary weapon. Then I'm going to put 5 points into Anima as well as Tempest, and then the rest of the points you can put them literally wherever you want. You can put them into Awakening if you really wanted to. You can pick up Steady Hands if you wanted to, but I'm going to put them into Wildfire just so we can go down the tree and pick up Deep Well. My personal taste, I kind of like having a lot of element in my weapons, so I am just going to put it into Infusion. But that's about it. As you can see, this build melts people. The Phasecast Anoint is an insane multiplicative damage increase, and the fact that we can have Nimbus on top of it doing a bunch of dot damage, you'll see in the footage that I'm showing you that sometimes I don't even need to shoot people. I throw the Phasecast and they just die. They just die to the damage over time. We have a bunch of action skill damage on top of everything. It's just insane. It's so much AoE. You're going to proc Samsara and you're going to proc Laid Bare on huge crowds of enemies, and you can do this constantly. You can stack Transcend. It's just so much damage. Okay, now finally let's talk about Phaseslam. Phaseslam follows the exact same principles as the Phasecast build, in the sense that in order to really elevate this to the next level, you are gonna want a primary weapon using the Siren Phaseslam anointment. This will increase your weapon damage by 300%. That is no joke. That is an insane multiplicative damage increase. So if you plan on using a wedding invitation, you don't need any kind of anointment on this whatsoever. This thing just absolutely murders everything and anything. But if you're going to be using a different primary weapon, and you know, certain situations are just not so comfortable for a sniper, even though this thing is insanely accurate, you can hip fire with it like a beast. But you can use a lot of other primaries. For example, the Maggie, you can use the Moonfire, the Hellshock, which unfortunately I don't have a Phaseslam anointment on either one of these, but you can use a King's Call, a Nighthawkin, a Cutsman, a Dictator. I really wish I had a Dictator with a Phaseslam anointment, or even a action skill end increases weapon damage anointment on it, because it is amazing. The Hellwalker is another one that's really, really good. Again, for my shield, I just have a Transformer and I have a Piss Grenade. I have a Cryo Radiation set up on this. The shield in this build, I will often use Incendiary anointment. So if you have a shield with an Incendiary anointment, or preferably a Transformer or a Stopgap with an Incendiary anointment, that would be godlike, because I like using Blight Tiger on my Phaseslam. Now for your class mod, you have two options. Once again, you can use Phaserker, very comfortable, very general use, comfy, one-size-fits-all class mod, but you can also use a Golden Rule comm. So this will give you increased action skill cooldown rate whenever you take damage, and considering that you're going to be in people's faces jumping in the air all the time, this is going to happen quite often. Phaseslam has the highest cooldown out of all of her action skills, but with Golden Rule you can get it down, you know, 4 seconds a lot of the times, 5 to 4 second cooldown, which is insane. It's an insane amount of sustain, damage, and mobility, so Golden Rule feels really, really good to use. If you guys can get yourselves one of these, I highly recommend it, especially one that has points into Laid Bare, because you're going to be affecting a lot of enemies with the AoE smash, so debuffing them and making them take more damage is really, really good. As you can see, I don't have a level 53 Golden Rule. I wish I had this one with action skill cooldown rate and the +3 on the Laid Bare, because that is amazing. But any type of Golden Rule will work, obviously, as you will see. Now let's get started with the spec. The red tree, what we're going to want from this is Forceful Expression. We're going to want as much element on our weapons as possible so that we can keep ourselves alive with sustainment, because we are not going to be using Soul Sap. So in order to do this, we're going to put 5 points into Infusion, Tempest. We're not going to pick up Dread, because this does not work with Stillness of Mind. Very unfortunate, but it does not work. As for the points to go down the tree, you can spend them however you want. I'm going to recommend that you use or pick up Anima, and then pick up Deep Well, Indiscriminate. This is really, really strong. I don't like using Wildfire on this because if they take damage from a spreaded status effect, it is going to break their pause from Stillness of Mind. So we don't actually want that. We're still going to do it by accident with our ricochets. So if you do want to pick it up, if you're like, fuck it, whatever, I'm going to do it by accident anyway, then do so and pick it up. I personally prefer reducing the chances of this happening as much as I can, but the thing is that the indiscriminate damage is pretty strong. The status effect damage from this is negligible, but the damage that you get from ricochets is quite significant, so this is pretty good. I'm going to pick up Catharsis because this is pretty good, and then I'm just going to max out Sustainment in order to reach Forceful Expression, so that our non-elemental weapons such as Maggie can do elemental damage just all by themselves. And not only that, but it'll increase the damage of all our weapons. Then we're once again gonna go and pick up Samsara by putting 3 points into personal space, 2 in Alacrity, or sorry, not Alacrity, Clarity, and then Samsara. This will also unlock Blight Tiger, which is actually the element that I like running on my Phaseslam, and let's go and pick that up as well. Now for her blue tree, the one thing that we want from this is Ascendant, so in order to get there, I'm going to put some points into this, put some points into Do Harm. We do want Restless because it is very long cooldown, and Transcend because it is crit damage. We want to pick up our Ascendant, pick up Stillness of Mind, and now, with one more point, we can put 2 points into Wrath, which is going to give you the most bang for your buck. So this is going to give you 16 to 17% on enemies that have taken damage from your action skill, and this works for all members of your team. So if you're playing in a group, you probably want this. However, this works whether or not you hit people with your action skill. This is simply more free damage for free, like you don't have to do anything for it. And it doubles after you used your action skill. So you don't have to hit enemies with this, you just have a free passive damage bonus, which is more than you can get from the 17% that you would get from 2 levels of Laid Bear. So this is what I recommend that you pick up. Maybe in a group this would be more worth it, but for solo play and in general play, it's not like you're trolling, this would be a really good pickup. And that's it. Those are my AMARA builds. I really hope you guys like them. I really tried my best to put out a kind of compilation of the best ways to use all of our different action skills. I think my favorite one is this Phaseslam one out of all of them. It is just super satisfying to use, and yeah, I hope you guys try them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Any critique, any suggestions, what do you guys play? And also let me know if you guys would be interested in more videos of this same type, if you guys would like to see more Borderlands videos, if you guys would not like to see any more Borderlands videos. I, for one, would love to keep making some more Borderlands videos. I had a ton of fun. It was a hell of a hassle to put this video together, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too. And I am completely in love with the game. I honestly can't stop playing it. I would like to keep it going, so let me know what you guys think. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.